Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Why AI. In this week's episode, we are joined by Khami. Nicholas gives some fantastic insight into his experience as a data practitioner and founder of Arguflow. I hope you enjoy this one. So, hello Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Harry?
Fantastic. Yes, never been better. The sun's been blazing over here. How is the weather across the pond?
Absolutely heat.
Yeah,
Absolutely heated. Still
yeah.
super, super hot. We're having over 100 days here in Austin,
Oh wow.
Texas still. Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean,
100 Fahrenheit.
I say mine's been okay. It's currently raining outside, but it's ups and downs over here. We get 4 seasons in a day, so yeah, brilliant. So Nick, you're obviously you're on the podcast today to talk a bit about what you do on a day to day basis. Um, Here to talk about Arguflow. So yeah, to take it away, what is Arguflow? How did you end up coming into this line of work? And yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of can go top down. So Arguflow is an AI infrastructure provider.
Okay.
We are basically a white glove service provider of a vector database management system. So you kind of like have a vector database, and then one order above that, you can get a whole management system that kind of ships you like all the tools you need to quickly deploy internal tools. But the important part is that we are a layer above the models. So we don't do anything with training models or tuning them.
Okay.
We simply help deploy them into production. And then how I got into it personally, I did my undergrad here in Austin, Texas, UT Austin Computer Science, with a heavy focus on data science and machine learning. And my early career has always been working at seed stage startups. I started working at a credit card and ACH processing company. And then after that, I transitioned more into other forms of digital payments. And then
Okay.
I kind of wanted to found my own company, and it seemed like AI was going to be a really good fit with the recent breakthroughs in the model layer of things.
Brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. So, and then you've ended up sort of, coming into this now. What does a day in the office look like to you?
Yeah, so we are actually a part of the Futo Fellows Program. Futo is a local nonprofit here in Austin, founded by the billionaire Aaron Wolf. It's affiliated with Louis Rossman, if you happen to know who that is.
I don't
Uh,
personally. Maybe some of our
yeah,
listeners.
yeah. Louis just like he fights for right to repair across the country in the American judicial system, and has like a foundation for doing that. Cool dude. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're part of the fellows class, so we basically work out of their office. Typically, it's myself and my other original co-founder. Then we added one more, kind of like
Okay.
after we started the company, who does most of the business development stuff. Yeah, it's us three.
Yeah.
Usually, it looks like a couple of meetings, a lot of dev work,
Okay.
and then some coordination on like the marketing side and the
Mhm.
fundraising side.
Yeah. Okay. And so the Arguflow's current role, if you like, essentially, what is that?
Um, to help businesses that want to have the latest in AI search
Okay.
and retrieval capabilities,
Hmm.
get it up and running in the next, month or
Hmm.
like short time span period without having to do a lot of their own in-house development work.
Okay, I see. When did you begin with the business with the company?
Yeah, January of this year is
Okay,
when
right.
we
So
first started.
in the midst of like the sort of boom of it all.
Yeah, yeah. In the midst of the boom, we started with a different idea. We were going to try to compete with some of the polling services for business teams.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that was like the original idea. And kind of in building that, we realized there was this huge market gap for a way of like we needed to build some kind of infrastructure for ourselves in order to create that product. And in the
Okay.
process of realizing we had to build it, we said, okay, instead of doing the polling for business teams and the employee engagement
Mhm.
side of things, we're going to pivot to providing this AI infrastructure suite that didn't exist at the time.
Okay. Right, I see. So I mean, it seems like you probably hit quite a good time. Is that right? Does it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we kind of knew like prior to this past year or two,
Mhm.
it wasn't actually all that viable to build a lot of these AI retrieval systems because the models weren't there and the vector databases weren't there. So, really it's something that just recently became possible, which is, quite cool and a lot
Yeah.
of the appeal of the whole startup.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So we were having a bit of a conversation before, and you said you work with a lot of middle schools. Is that right?
Like all the way, so middle school through college, but
Yeah.
in
Okay.
the competitive debate, like extracurricular activity.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Can you give me a bit of that?
Yeah, yeah. So when we were first building our infrastructure suite,
Yeah.
we had to like find the test case because we couldn't just like build blindly, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. That could probably turn out terrible. You build all the
Yeah.
software that ends up being quite bad. So like the test case that we found was middle school to like college competitive debate students. And the reason why it's a good test case is because they do tons and tons of research. And
Okay.
the research they're doing is quite painful because they're usually researching like emerging topics where there's not
Right.
a ton of information out there. And a lot of the recent advancements in like SEO have caused the traditional search engines to not perform great when it comes to serving them the information they're looking for. So providing them with an AI enhanced search that allows for querying in natural language, drastically increase the quality
Hmm.
of what they were able to do. And basically, what we provide. So like when they are kind of like researching and doing their topics, we have a curated data set which they can search to find information, and it works quite well. We've had peaks of around 300 users
Hmm.
across a couple of days. We usually average closer to 100, and the really cool thing like about it is the average session time, like the average amount of time they spend on the app is like 4 to 5 minutes. So they
Okay.
really are doing some kind of like it's clear from like we don't collect a lot of analytics, but from the analytics we do have, it's clear that they are really able to like eke some value out of it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we have for the competitive debate students is we on top of large language models like ChatGPT, we made an AI bot that debates against you. So you can give it
Ah.
an
Okay.
argument and it'll give you a counter argument. That's actually available. Both these. So the first one is like the search. If you want to try it, anyone listening, it's at search.arguflow.ai, and the debate opponent is at chat.arguflow.ai.
Right.
But when you use the chat, like the cool thing is that when the bot gives you a counter argument, it cites its sources. So you actually get it's like as you're arguing, you can also do research, kind of.
Okay. Right. So it's very personal to you as an individual rather than to just the entire topic sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It's not necessarily personal to the individual, but it's just every argument has sources present.
Yeah.
So we don't have hallucination problems.
Okay.
So
Right.
it doesn't make up any information. We
No.
did a lot of work to like we didn't tune the model, but with the retrieval technology,
Yeah.
we were able to get it to not hallucinate so much, which
Yeah.
is really cool and helps it be like a valuable resource because arguing against somebody that makes up information intuitively is not
Yeah.
going to be very
Yeah. It's
good.
a tricky one. Yeah, brilliant. So just in regards to the one of the topics conversation that I'm always really keen to get to is just the ethical side of things. And what have you come across personally that has stopped you in your tracks? Has there been anything?
Yeah, nothing stops in our tracks, but it is really interesting. Like we actually went in person to a
Mhm.
high school debate tournament in
Oh
like the
wow,
local
okay.
area recently, and we set up like we have like a table, like the table cover and like all that kind of like we treated it like a little mini conference, even though it's
Yeah.
like a high school debate tournament. But we went there. We were like talking to students who were getting introduced to software, like maybe had used it in the past. And
Yeah.
one of the first questions that we always got was, "Is this legal? Like, are they allowed to use this in competition?" Which was, I mean, it's good because it means the software is, good and like high quality and
Yeah. Otherwise they wouldn't be
impressive.
asking the question.
Right, right. But at the same time, it was also like kind of eye opening. This
Yeah.
is like there is if you had like if you were if you had a library like
Mhm.
in your native language that
Yeah.
was ingested, where a summary of every book was ingested into an AI retrieval system,
Hmm.
uh, and somebody else at their university in their native language only had a full text search feature.
Yeah.
So they were doing like the word matching that Google does, but you had the full semantic querying over the
Yeah.
same over your library. It is true that you would have a huge edge over the students who didn't have that AI search engine.
Yeah.
Um, and that is something to grapple with. Like
Mm.
our tool is open and free, but as these systems get developed, like people, especially on the educational side of things, who get the early access are going to have a massive learning advantage.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. So has that been apparent with the groups that use the tool?
I mean, not so far because it's open to everyone.
Of course. Oh, right.
Um,
Okay. Right. Right. I'm with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
but but one interesting thing that we have a trial case we're doing with a law firm. They're a top 100 law firm in the states. I can't disclose the name yet,
Yeah. Of
but
course. No.
in the trial, when you do discovery in at least the U.S. court system, usually you get deluged with a huge, massive amount of documents that aren't relevant to your case,
Yeah.
and trying to sort through those is like a very time-consuming task that is typically very expensive because you have to pay fully trained legal associates to do the work, and that skilled labor is not cheap. Uh,
No.
so especially in cases where domain knowledge is important, like a medical or healthcare related trial, maybe
Yes.
a engineering one. And in the trial with them, we basically ingested all of the documents that they got from their discovery
Hmm.
and provided them with semantic search. And what we found is that most of the same evidence, which took legal associates, 24 to 72 hours to find, like man hours, right? So this
Yeah.
is we're talking three to 12 days of
Yeah.
labor in some cases.
Full days.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, full days was found in an hour with
Wow.
the natural language query. So one person can do the work in an hour that three people do in 72 hours, which frees up those associates to do a lot higher value things.
Hmm.
So now, like in these professional fields, I guess we are seeing it. Like the the folks who are faster to adopt these AI semantic search technologies are going to get a huge advantage. And you know, it's difficult. It's difficult to, as like a tech company, obviously we're going to be making these relationships like on a higher
Yeah.
order of thinking.
Hmm.
It is difficult because certain people are going to get advantages that others aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. That's again, that's something that I do like to speak on. Just the situation, obviously, that comes into every side of things as well, doesn't it? So whether it be on a global scale, there'll be certain countries out there that won't be exposed to perhaps the AI that and the resources in AI that I am or you are or the countries that we live in are. Do you think that will be do you think it will be a massive divide yourself? With those groups.
Yeah, like it's going to be a huge divide. I mean, one of the interesting things, like I really don't know much about, but I'm curious
Hmm.
on, is whether or not this is almost like a forcing factor for English and Chinese, because most of the models being built are either being built for Chinese or English. Like
Yeah.
there is no embedding model for French.
Right.
There's
Okay.
no there's no embedding model for Italian. There's no embedding model for Spanish.
No.
Like and what that the embedding models are the models which allow for the natural language query.
Right.
So and and it's possible. Like I'm not on the academic model building side of things, but I think that a lot of the reason why we're not seeing those come out is because the corpus of writing in those languages is
Hmm.
too small and unstudied to develop these models quickly. And I'm not, and maybe they'll catch up, but as they catch up, the English ones will continue to get better.
Of
And I'm
course.
not,
Yeah.
and I do wonder if that's going to be a forcing factor
Mm.
in English education becoming more normative.
Yeah, of course. And that, like you say, just that as that gets better, it's almost like the gap will just gradually, even though that is going up, it's not quite at the same scale. Just going back to the ethical side of things. Do you find um, that you get sort of in your line of work a bit of, I don't know the right word. I want to say flack or a little bit of pushback from that's the right word, pushback. Do you feel like you get quite a bit of pushback from people who don't really know much about AI?
I mean, so like we mostly work with businesses and business
Hmm.
teams.
Yeah.
Uh, with the high school students, like the
Hmm.
college students especially, I think we've encountered some pushback.
Yeah.
It, but okay, so my feeling on this is that when we approach like legal teams or
Hmm.
HR teams, like another use case of software is like searching job descriptions, resumes. But when we approach them, they are typically very enthusiastic about the software
Yeah.
because they see it's going to save them time, make them more productive. And I think that when you're closer to the ground, so to speak, you look at the AI as more of a productivity enhancer. I don't, from our usage, even with the retrieval augmentation, where you retrieve data and put it in the conversation window as we're using
Hmm.
ChatGPT, the models are not good enough. They can really like do work that a skilled human would do, even in liberal arts fields like law
Okay.
or journalism. And as a result of that, like those kinds of folks, I don't think are fearing the model.
No.
Uh, Me as a software engineer, like I'm not really fearing the models are going to like take my job. I think some others are being like hyperbolic in that regard, but I've been using these large language models like every day when I code to make myself code faster, and
Yes.
it definitely is not making me feel like in the next 5 years I'm going to be out of a job. Uh, Not even like
No.
close. And I
No.
think it's like the same for people in the law field. But if you're like a high school student and you haven't had like the time in your life to develop like skilled labor,
Yes.
uh, train yourself on like a skilled labor field, then I see how it could be more scary. It probably
Hmm.
does feel like it's going to prevent you from working in the areas that you want to. And
Yeah.
from them, we have gotten uh, pushback on that, but not so much generally.
No, I suppose it's something that would you like you say when you come to a situation where you're becoming skilled in a certain certain area, you you'll soon realize that it isn't the case. I mean, I speak to quite a lot of teachers, and I always tend to ask the teachers themselves. We have quite a lot of teachers on here, if they fear their jobs. If they fear their jobs are going to go, if they think AI is going to take over teaching, and I expected it to be more of a divide than what it is, but I'd say 95% have been no, absolutely not. If you obviously don't, you're either not a great teacher or you're completely, clueless about AI because it hasn't got that application yet. It hasn't got, it can't stand in a room and teach as of yet and have the same effect, I suppose. Do you agree? Do you think
Yeah,
it's
I 100% agree. Like these things like the AIs as they exist. They call it. A lot of people are calling it human in the loop,
okay?
um, meaning that these new AI systems are best used with a human in the engagement loop. So in the loop of how you actually use them.
Yeah.
And I think for right now, at least, but I at least for the next like for the foreseeable future, and I think as long as we are pursuing this transformer model architecture,
Hmm.
especially, which is like the latest. ChatGPT is like a transformer model. It's like the
Yes.
yeah. So as long as we're like in this transformers era, then I don't think we're gonna get to a point where human out of the loop is better than human in the loop. If you know what I mean.
Okay.
So it's
Yes.
yeah,
It will always be better at the moment. Well, this certain breed of AI, if you like, will be better with a human.
yeah, for sure. Like you need a human to act as a guiding hand. I don't know. Here's an interesting thing. So yesterday, the day before, OpenAI removed the edit button from ChatGPT.
Okay.
So
Right.
like in the free version, they had an edit button. In the early
Yes.
days, they put the edit button behind the premium paywall, and then they released it to everyone. And then a couple of days ago, they took it back out. And
Right.
for me, at least, like as an engineer, like that edit button is like the most crucial part of the entire UI. Like without the edit button, the software for me is like functionally useless. And
Right.
I was
Okay.
looking on Reddit, like a lot of people agree.
Feel the
But the
same.
reason
Yeah.
for that, yeah, because like you try like a given prompt, and then you can kind of like tell that a certain keyword threw off the machine, or like threw off the AI, and you want to
Mhm.
like change that keyword or give it some context, like but rarely ever would you want to continue the conversation, because if you
Yeah.
continue the conversation, it gets even more confused. It's very difficult to course correct once it already has like one
Right.
generation in the
Yes.
context window. Um, and I just thought that was funny because like it shows like how bad the technology actually is. Like you can't even have like a fluent, because if I'm talking to you and you
Yeah.
say something that reflects that you are not, that we are not on the same page. I could say, "Hey Harry, that's not what I meant. I actually mean this," and we would continue. I don't
Yeah.
have to be like, I don't have to like smack you across the face so you get a concussion and forget what I
Yeah.
said, and then try again. And like that's what these models are. These models are not. You can't even have fluent conversations with them yet.
No.
They're, and I think that's really telling for the fact that these things are currently human in the loop tools more than they are replacements for liberal arts style tasks.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're safe. We're safe ultimately for now. Um, but yeah, brilliant. I mean, just as a bit of a sign off as we come towards the end of the end of the episode, Nick, thank you for joining me today. Do you have anything that you sort of want to say? Any sort of advice that you'd like to give? A closing statement, if you will.
Yeah, if you guys are building things in the AI world, I strongly recommend looking at the retrieval side more than the model or generation side. I think that in the current sphere, the retrieval based technology is going to be, it's going to have a lot more depth than model generation technology. And for any builders out there, I would strongly consider doing that. For non-builders who are using these systems, start using them now. And the same way that you would learn how to use Google Quarks, like where you put the quotes to make text required, or you put the site colon to search a given website, it's worth learning those basic tricks and like fundamentals of interacting with these large language models so you can understand more what's going on under the hood and get the most out of them.
Yeah. Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, thank you for joining me again, Nick. I really appreciate it. Do you have your any social media or anything like that that you'd like to plug just now?
Yeah, please. We are at Arguflow. It's on the hat, ARGU Flow,
Arguflow.
on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us there. On Instagram and TikTok, we have pretty good memes. We hired a meme expert.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, our email is contact@arguflow.gg. Domain is arguflow.ai. Please do get in touch if you are building or you're looking for a partner to help you build and deploy these models in your organization faster.
fantastic. Nick, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you later.